So it's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. I'll love to meet you too, Joe.
So let's begin our journey with this. 6 years ago, this pandemic was changing everything about our lives. How did you get through that COVID era, and how has it changed the way that you approach things today?
You know, uh, that time was, I think, a turning point for everyone, most people, but for some of us more than others. I actually graduated from business school in 2020, which was probably not the best time to do that. A lot of my classmates, lost job offers, lost internships. I, at the time, wasn't quite sure where I was going. I was like, oh, I'll just figure it out. I'll get a job, something. And that figuring it out kind of went out the window. And so, but the dearth of opportunities, I had like a little, 3 month thing here and a 3 month thing here. That dearth of opportunities was the reason that I kind of just took whatever came at me. And there was something due to a relationship that I had with someone at my business school. There was an opportunity to go and work and do like develop a training for this large organization. And just on my own, they needed someone to just have a second eye on something that they were doing. And I said, sure, why not? There's nothing else. And through that, I kind of developed a relationship with this organization. I also simultaneously entered a coaching program for women, like a leadership coaching program. Now it's called the Women's Impact Alliance. Shout out. At the time, it was not called that. And um, as a, with a combination of coaching and my coach Pam, who was incredible, she kind of helped me cobble together and also give permission to the idea that I could just go off and keep doing these kinds of just doing things on my own thing.
Yeah.
Um, and put something together and create it in a way that I had never seen done. I come from a family where my dad just like worked a 9 to 5 job. My mom was a hairdresser. And, you know, there was no like entrepreneurship option. And so I said, hey, I'll go and do this thing on my own for a year, see how it goes. I had a relationship and got a retainer with this client. And I just never went back. I just kept trying. I realized it felt so much more aligned for me and to be off on my own, figuring out my own path, no matter how messy it was, uh, rather than go and go and work at in-house at an organization. Like nothing had ever felt aligned when I was doing that. I worked in the corporate world. I worked at different companies, and for the first time it felt like I was actually motivated to do something for myself. And so I I mean I shouldn't do this, but I thank the kind of pandemic in that just in that small regard, because
Sure.
I don't know how much time or what it would have taken for me to end up just out here for myself, pretty much.
So if we had to boil down what you do on a daily basis, I'm going to put you in front of 12-year-olds at career day. The
Yep.
kid in the back of the room wants you to explain your day job to him. How do you do that?
It's pretty easy. I really help people become the best versions of themselves in their businesses or in their organizations. So I'm the person behind the scenes, motivating people, keeping them prioritized, accountable, um, and reaching their own goals. I'm not really in front of the scenes, and uh, that is either one-on-one or, I work individually with clients one-on-one as a coach. And I also do training at organizations to help them be, you know, better managers, better leaders, and more effective as, organizations overall.
So when you were that age at career day and the dreams were brimming everywhere, what was your dream gig? What did you want to be when you grew up?
When I was 12, I want to be a veterinarian.
Okay.
And I pursued that path for a very long time. I went to a a high school that focused on like biology and zoology. It was a really weird high school out in Los Angeles that we physically were in the parking lot of the Los Angeles Zoo. I wish I was making that up. Um, I tested out of high school early and started college at 16 and started in animal science. Like I took that goal further than most goals that
Uh-huh.
people take when they're like, because I think I first said that when I was like 5.
Yeah.
And I took it pretty far. I was almost applying to veterinary school, and through having a lot of jobs in the veterinary field, I worked in animal cancer, animal emergency, exotic animals, etc. I realized that while I loved, I if a cat walks by here at some point, I apologize. While I love animals, the career, the job itself wasn't for me, right?
Yeah.
It's like you can love art and not want to be an artist.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, kind of how I was, where I was like, oh my gosh, like I would love to like have a cat next to me all day, but I don't necessarily want to be doing surgery on it. And that was a tough, that was a pretty big, tough switch for me to make. But yeah, I took the childhood dream pretty far.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. What happened early on? What seeds were planted that allowed you to get to this point where you're an entrepreneur and you're helping entrepreneurs and you're in this mold of a world that you've made yourself? What did you see? What were the seeds?
How early?
Just through childhood, even up to getting into the vet world and all of that. What were you seeing that has eventually been harvested into who you are today?
So, for context, I'm an immigrant
Yeah.
and I came to this country when I was just under 4, 3 and 11 months. And I think, it's interesting. A lot of immigrant kids have a similar experience where, there is this expectation to do something, be something, doctors, lawyers, engineers, which there was a bit for me. Um, but for me, like it's in the messaging that I received of, you know, you should be doing something with your life, like we didn't move to this country for you to not be doing something and you're so smart and you should be taking that somewhere. It's interesting because like in my brain, I think it processed very differently.
Yeah.
Like that messaging was supposed to process as, oh, you should be going and having some type of a very specific type of career that is considered exceptionally impressive. And for me, I think I processed it as, you know, you have to like you have to keep looking for the thing and be happy. Like you don't have to be miserable. My parents, tell me all the stories of how I was born in the former Soviet Union. Like my parents constantly raised me on these stories of how everybody had these like miserable jobs and miserable lives. And, people were just kind of like relegated into some specific type of a career or whatever it may be. And, it's like, I don't want to be miserable. My parents told me not to be miserable. My parents ended up having to take jobs that they didn't necessarily want or have passion about because that was their option when we moved here. And so I weirdly like took the message and I don't know, it like flipped on its head inside of my weird little brain. And I just kept trying to figure out a way to be happier. And I did so many things. Like my resume, my career looks like a fever dream.
Yeah.
And I did all of that because I refused to give up on finding what felt aligned and what made me happy. And so that is how I ended up here, because what I figured out 6 years ago makes me happy is to figure things out on my own and to work for myself, unless something happens where some perfect thing comes across the table and I feel that it's aligned to who I am. I never say never. That's a big thing for me. Um, and I also realized that I'm someone that for a very, very, very long time, most of my life, I was, I was like a tutor in school. Like even when I was a young kid, I was a high school teacher once upon a time, actually. I was always like there to try and really support other people in their success and their learning.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that never really went away. I thought I wanted to be a professor, a teacher, like after kind of giving up on the veterinary game at like 19, which for context was that was 3 years into college for me. I was like, I'm gonna go be a professor. And I went on that path for a while. And because I just have always had a desire to support other people in their development and their growth, and that has never actually left. I still very much do that work, whether one-on-one or even in like a large group setting.
So who's been that inspirational force, that hero for you in your life?
How do you define hero?
Somebody that's inspired you every day to become who you are, to find this path to entrepreneurship, to charter your own way instead of it being corporate or otherwise. Just somebody that inspires you.
So a lot of people really inspire me in different ways. My mom, who completely shifted her, both my parents, right, who completely shifted their lives and had to learn a brand new language, brand new careers. Like my dad ended up doing very well for himself. Um, you know, they are really wonderful and inspiring. And also, I surround myself with a lot of people that have done really wonderful things for themselves. One of my absolute best friends, who's also a coach, seeing them in their, uh, you know, in their journey in their career, like without a traditional education, become what I would say is a very successful coach. All these people ultimately inspire me so much. And I discovered I was in I'm very open about these things. So I was in a 12-step program 8 years ago, not for alcoholism, for an eating disorder, actually. And in that, we had to figure out what our higher power was. And for a lot of people, it's God, which is great, fantastic. But for me, that didn't resonate. And so, um, for me, my higher power was the best and kind of most, I don't know, like self-fulfilled, self-loving, evolved version of myself, which, I don't want to say the perfect version of myself, because what does that mean? But um, like it was this idea of something that I could aspire to be, which is like the most loving and healed and, you know, um, true to self and all these things, like version of me. Because the reality is that, they say like we're born alone, we die alone, like I guess unless you're a twin. But you're like if you can't be good with yourself, then life is really hard and really painstaking. And the reason that I had as progressed and horrible as of a disease that I did at the time was because I was never good with myself. And so as much as there are so many people in my life that are so inspiring and so incredible, and I do look to all the time. Um, I think in a weird way, and this isn't to be egotistical or like big-headed, it's actually quite the opposite. It's very humbling to look at the best possible version of yourself as a goal or as a guiding light.
Sure.
Um, because somebody else, they are living their own lives. They have their own experiences, they have their own traumas and challenges and obstacles and all these things that I can't relive or go through. But the most heightened and enlightened version of myself, she's living the life I am, right?
Yeah.
But just at some point, making better, more aligned decisions and living in truth and living in values and being thoughtful and loving and giving and all, and giving to self. So, perhaps a very esoteric answer,
No, I like it.
but
I see what you're
yeah,
saying. I'm following exactly what you're saying. And I think sometimes we can be our inspirational force ourselves by the choices we make and aspiring to that higher version of what we know is possible. Um,
exactly.
so in the world of entrepreneurship, who do you admire? If you could meet one entrepreneur alive on the planet right now that does it
Hmm.
right, have a lunch with them, talk to them, someone that might help you on your journey, who'd you love to talk to?
Um, Oh, that's such a hard question. There's so many people that I like deeply admire.
You could round
Like,
table it.
yeah, because I was like, oh, like, who would be really interesting because I've read their work is like Amy Edmondson, and I think Brene Brown would just be a really fun person to have dinner with.
Yeah.
Um, like Simon Sinek, I would probably honestly pick Simon, if it had to be one, because very early on, his idea of essentially centering everything around purpose, around the why, even though initially his messaging was around like branding and sales, right? And kind of getting people to buy into why you may be the better organization. And it's not because of the capabilities you have of like your phone being better, but it's the why, right? It's the future thinking, etc. But he's really developed that into also talking about, servant leadership and people and how absolutely imperative it is for um, people to be the stronghold and like the foothold of society and organizations and being driven by purpose. I think it would just be an incredibly interesting uh conversation. Like he doesn't seem like someone that would like talk at me. I would probably pick him simply because I just really like the way his mind works and his relationship to what it means to be human and in
Yeah.
like in an effective leader. So yeah, that's probably who I would choose because I'm trying to think of like an actual like started a started a product or started a brand or something like that. Um,
I mean, those are good answers because they started a brand. I mean, it's not a traditional thing, but they did.
yes, they did.
They've become a trademark of that world
Mhm.
of inspiring others. So it makes
Yes.
sense. So let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into that 19-year-old version of you that's just about ready to get out of the vet dream. And you walk into the room, there's a film projector, you click play, and a 60-second highlight reel of your life comes up on a screen. Is that young version of you going to believe your life turned out this way?
At 19,
Yeah.
No. I was very lost. I was very, very lost at the time. Um, and so I don't think so. There's also a lot of other elements to my life that are hard to believe. Um, However, I do think she would have thought like, huh, that seems kind of cool,
Yeah.
you know? I don't think it would be a bad thing. I think it would be a, how on earth did you get there
Right.
from here?
Yeah.
What happened? How did you end up working at like a corporate job? Like what? Like, um, but, uh, but I think it would have been like, okay, like that's cool. I'm up for it.
Yeah.
Kind of like shrug my shoulders. I feel like that's an attitude I've had. I mean, I literally took a test to leave high school at 16 to go and start in college because I was like, I don't like this anymore. This is boring.
Yeah.
And so I've kind of always been like like let me just give it a
Yeah.
try
Yeah.
kind of person.
For sure. So what are you the proudest of? When you look at that highlight reel of your life, what are you the proudest of?
Um, I'm proudest of how many people I know would say that I genuinely care for them, about them, or have helped them. Like, I know that that is not a small number. Um, and on top of that, maybe two things. So that, but they're not unrelated, is the fact that I have I have moved forward with a very intentional amount and force of authenticity. Authenticity is so important to me, no matter how uncomfortable it makes me or sometimes others. Um, I am so, I'm very, very proud of the fact that, for better or for worse, some days that has that has remained a cornerstone of how I operate is being who I really am, no matter who I'm with.
So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, clients, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I mean, related answer, very authentic person, someone that is uh, kind, but not always nice, because sometimes saying the hard thing and the honest thing does not come across as nice, but
Yeah.
it's necessary. So very, I guess, still like, stereotypically Slavic in that way. Um, Fiercely protective of the people I love. Um, Protective and loving and loyal of the people I love. You know, would probably stand up for them sometimes more days than I stand up for myself. And someone who is always open to mess up and try again and keep going and do better and develop and grow and learn from that. Um, I think that being stagnant and never pushing ourselves to try different things, or see if, you know, um, we might fail at something and still do it anyway. Uh, I feel like that's what's landed me to where I am now. And I have to keep on that train and have to keep believing that it's what's going to continue to serve me, even on the days where it feels really scary and really impossible.
So if anybody's ready to take the next step, they want to reach out, they have questions, they want to hire you, any of the good business, where do they go?
Yeah, you can go to my website, Liza K Coaching, Lizak coaching.com. You can read about me, my past, my approach, all the things, all my offerings, everything is there. And yeah, I mean, like that's kind of my website's kind of my little easiest home. My email's the same, lizakcoaching@gmail.com. I'm always just open to have a conversation, meet new people, even if somebody's just like, I just want to have a chat and ask you more about your path. That's totally fine. I love connecting with new people, hearing their stories, hearing about their adventures and journeys and fumbles, or maybe trying to go into entrepreneurship from like a full-time job, whatever it may be. I yeah, I love people. I love connecting, and I certainly welcome anyone that feels inspired or motivated to reach out and you know, just drop me a line, say hello, schedule a chat.
Sounds wonderful. I will put all of these links in the show notes. Liza, it's so great to meet you. Thank you so much
It
for your
was so
story.
lovely to meet you, Joe. Thank you so
Appreciate it.
much.
Thank you. And I